Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. Appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo for making the Social Work Rants podcast one of the top 10 podcasts in all of social work podcasts in the world. So I appreciate all love, support, and rocking and rolling like my supervisor at work says. So, uh, follow the podcast on all social media outlets. Instagram is the best way to reach out. The Social Work Rants podcast, that is all one word. Yeah, I'm still on X, Twitter, whatever Elon decides to call it this week, this month, whatever. Follow the podcast at Social Work Rants. Elon, the Twitter has not been, especially social work Twitter has not been popping recently, so we got to fix that. Follow the podcast on Facebook, aka Meta, at the Social Work Rants podcast. Hit that like button. I got the podcast T-shirt and the hoodies because it's hoodie season. Go to triumphthroughpain.myshopify.com for your T-shirts and podcast hoodie. Also, for everybody that got Latinx to Social Work Volume 2. I appreciate all the love and support. If you haven't gotten it, make sure you get your copy. It'll be in the show notes for purchase. And for everybody that got my book, Trying Through Pain, How to Maximize Your Full Potential During Hard Times. I appreciate the love and support. The link for the book will also be in the show notes. So as we kind of switch gears and talk about social work and entrepreneurship, and we're going to touch on that a little bit today because my guest, a two-time guest on the podcast, I can't believe it's been pushing 3 years since you've been on the
Yeah,
podcast. Brittani Williams, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. It's really good to tap in with you and reconnect. I can't believe it's been that long, but definitely happy to be here and love checking in and building with you for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's funny how using the podcast as a networking tool and all the stuff that you're doing and being on opposite coasts,
Mm.
and still able to connect and chill and talk trash. Especially, we got a big Notre Dame USC game coming up, so that's the only day we're not going to be cool. But besides,
I got love for Notre Dame. I always loved what was that movie? Rudy?
yeah, Rudy.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah. I don't
All
know. I don't USC is looking solid this year.
Yeah, I know. So, no, shout out to Caleb. He's doing this thing.
Yeah.
Besides that, no, we could always kick it and talk
Yeah.
and connect and support each other. No, we both got
Hmm.
families and got kids, and yourself being a wife, myself being a husband, and like try to do our social work thing and try to
Yeah.
without like driving our partners crazy and our kids crazy, and they drive us crazy sometimes. So it was always great to connect somehow, some way.
Yeah. Yeah. This parenting family, it's no joke. It's definitely a different type of hustle. So I'm still trying to figure out that balance myself. So
Yeah, I'm 14 years in. I'm still trying to figure it out. Every once in a blue, I get a sign from one of the kids that I'm doing something right, but I'm still figuring it out. Before
yeah.
before we go into today's topic, I always forget to do this, but it finally hit me right now. Disclaimer: this podcast is not intended as a substitute for individual therapy, counseling. If you need assistance, please call 988. Uh, if you got a therapist, call a psychiatrist, call your therapist, call your psychiatrist. It's okay not to be okay. Or if you really need assistance, call 911 for all my out of the country viewers or listeners or whatever your emergency service phone number is, use that and get the help that you need. So this year, now we can get to the topic. This year celebrates hip hop 50th anniversary. Happy birthday to hip hop.
Yes. Happy
And,
birthday, hip hop.
and for since you last been on, I didn't do YouTube yet, so so
Yeah.
Brittany was first came on season 2, episode 4, talking about hip hop therapy. So we this is kind of like part 2 for everybody who missed out with part one, you can go back and listen, and this be part two in an old of hip hop, and we both grew up on hip hop and kind of celebrate hip hop and talk about hip hop therapy a lot. I've seen more social workers using hip hop therapy since you've been on, so I'm glad it's like gaining traction and people are using it because I feel like it's a great way to help with the kids and kind of, you know, for myself, I grew up in the '90s. I grew up on some Biggie and Tupac, and some of these rappers nowadays are like, "Who the hell is that? Is this?" And like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
and the kid, especially my son, be like, "You know who this is?" Or like, "I heard of the name." Like, if the person punched me in the face, I have no idea who the person is. So it's like, I have no idea what this person is. So just care what the kids listen to and all this stuff. So yeah, so we talk about hip hop therapy and all the amazing things Brittani is doing, especially the hoodie that she's wearing. I still got gotta get mine. I mean, I'll get it for Christmas season. Put that on the list. Talk about that and just your entrepreneurship journey, where
Yeah.
we stand right now, and you kind of go from there. So all that to say, for those who don't know who you are, let people know who you are and what you do in the field of social work.
Yeah, so my name is Brittani Williams. I am a speaker, creative, and therapist. And I opened up a group private practice called Healmatic Group Practice. For those that are not hip hop literate, it was inspired by Illmatic, Nas's classic album. And it was actually an idea and name that came to me while I was on the East Coast. And I was going through a really hard time in my life, just a lot of transitions, a lot of challenges. And I was already in private practice at that point, but I was kind of, really wanting to come up with something new, something that really embodied what I represent, what I stand for, how I even view healing. So I was on the East Coast. I was in Philly and New York. I went to the hip hop therapy studio in Mott Haven with JC Hall. And on the way home, I was just listening to Illmatic, and it kind of came to me. The name Healmatic came to me, and what Healmatic means is it's a transformative process and act of unlearning and liberating ourselves from painful experiences, negative core beliefs, thought patterns, and behaviors that no longer serve us. And that's really how we conceptualize healing. So our practice was birthed out of the need for a collective of therapists that truly reflect the communities we come from. So we are an affinity space for Black and Brown folks seeking healing. We really focus on the mind-body connection. We operate from a trauma-informed framework, and we are led by healing justice principles as well. Aside from the clinical work, I've done, well, not aside from a part of that clinical work is stepping into training. So when we first met, I talked a little bit about hip hop therapy, and hip hop is what got me into the field of mental health. But now we've actually, brought hip hop therapy and hip hop therapeutic techniques into really clinical spaces such as EMDR. So me and Jackie Johnson of Sankofa Studios in Philly just last weekend, I believe we just did a EMDR approved hip hop therapy EMDR training it was an advanced training. And yeah, aside from that, with the work, with the practice, we have a podcast called the Wholehearted West Coast Living Podcast, where we have real conversations about real issues of real people, really pushing to destigmatize this work within our community. And we also have an apparel brand, and yeah, we do a lot, but it's been a journey, and I'm really like in a place where I'm really confident and grounded in the brand and the name and everything that it represents.
Now you said a lot there, and you sometimes we have to like do a lot, especially with social work in terms
Mm-hmm.
of they social work grad schools, and I talk about this at nauseum on the podcast, that they gear us to do private practice, but they don't teach us like business fundamentals and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
that goes in and ways to make money, and then we got to be in it for the outcome and not the income. But like, you know, right now we in a inflation going on, is like borderline recession that's been happening for the last like at least 6 months, or almost like the full year so far. And it just we need to make our money somehow. So between like, you know, you're doing the trainings, you got your apparel out, no podcasting, like your private practice. So we got to make our coins somehow. So I'm glad, you know, you bring that out, and you're doing, you know, so much since we last spoke.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's real. And I think that it's one of the things that me and my team always have ongoing conversations around. It's like I think the hard part about being in private practice is like setting your rates and then
Mhm,
raising your rates
mhm,
throughout the years. And there's always a lot of anxiety around when we have to raise our rates because
mhm.
rent goes up and because um EHR, like simple, we were working with Simple Practice for a minute and processing fees. I mean, it's just all expensive. Talking about marketing,
Mhm.
the time that goes into it. It's especially, I don't know how it is where you're at, but especially in California, it's very expensive to run a
Yes,
business. And
it's expensive.
and
Period.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but I mean, when we have to, like, I don't know how it is out there, but in California, like, you can't really have employees or has independent contractors no more. So they
Mm,
have to be W-2. Everyone has to be W-2, right? Which kind of is dope. Like, you have certain privileges and rights that come with that,
right.
but it also raises the overhead.
Mhm.
So it is always it's definitely something that has you grow. You know what I mean? There's more expenses, and
Right. Absolutely.
they're good expenses, but it's just
Mhm,
you have to move with it. You can't really stay at the same rate. You can't really charge the same thing you did
mhm.
three years ago.
Yeah, like we mentioned before we hit record, is a lot has happened in the 3 years, besides all the amazing work each of us are doing individually. But you know,
Yeah.
we got a new commander in chief, but that he just Biden had just started when the
Yeah.
episode came on, and still dealing with Orange Man and his nonsense. And it's like
Yeah.
I mentioned before, we got a recession now, and we got inflation, and all that was due to, 2020
Hmm.
and stimulus checks. And now we got the student loan payments are coming back up. So we got,
Yeah.
it's just a lot happening. And we got uh, President Biden seeking re-election, and Orange Man is still hanging around somehow, some way.
The
Uh,
persistence. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I mean, I joke around that we might see we might have an inauguration on Rikers Island.
That'd be wild. That'd be wild. Yeah.
No, but seriously, no, it's just a lot has happening, and even we were still dealing with COVID and going into 2021.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned, raising your rates, and now having W-2 employees. Like, obviously it's great that your business has grown, or to that point that you gotta raise your rates, and all this stuff. But how was it coming, like, from, like, I guess from 2021, when like COVID was kind of like winding down, even though it's still out there,
Mm.
and there's been many variances then to now. Like how was that transition, like for you as a business owner?
Yeah, a lot's changed for me. So when I first left community and mental health and came into the private practice game, I was in a joint partnership and owning a previous practice. And then in 2022 to now, it's just me. And
Mm,
it's all love, but it was just kind of like, finding like a niche and a lane that kind of represented me and going for that. So there's a lot of like it's been challenging in a lot of ways, a lot of growing pains, a lot of but also a lot of like I think I work well when I know it's on me and there's a sense of responsibility, and also people that I know are a resource to me, right?
mm,
So it's caused me to really like double down and learn SEO and learn
mm,
marketing in a different way, and to step into outside of my comfort zone and launch the podcast this year where it's filmed as well, and it's very, very vulnerable versus like a
Mhm.
TikTok, and that's,
Right.
or just, social media content. But it's also, thinking about how to navigate expenses, how to navigate, you know, rates. Also, like really knowing my worth.
Mm,
You know, like why am I? It's hard because I think our practice is really uh, for our people, right? And so it's really hard because we want to be accessible to everybody, but I'm also like surrounded by other therapists that I have way more training and certifications over, and I'm a solid quality therapist, and my team is too. And like there shouldn't be any anxiety around raising rates when,
mm,
people are charging like,
right.
crazy rates,
Right.
right? So it's about kind of recognizing what is that rate that's going to cover your labor, that's going to cover your sick days, what's going to cover bills, all these different
Mm,
things, but also finding nonprofit companies where we could offer free therapy slots and work with them to get them reimbursed, and offer sliding scales, pro bonos, like all those different things. And for the other piece too, is the reason why I did the podcast is so that for people that don't have access to therapy, they could hear about conversations around shadow work, conversations around story, how we heal through storytelling, conversations
mm,
around music, and how a lot of that is healing for us. Because all these evidence-based theoretical orientations are really they're pulling from that. And I really believe that we've always known healing through everyday things that we already do.
right.
We've always known healing through community, through talking, through movement, through dance, through music, all these different things. So a lot's changed for me, but I feel like it needed to happen to get me into this place of feeling, really grounded in where I'm at.
No, yeah, and I'm so happy for you. Very proud of you. All the stuff that you're doing it, and you're right. Healing. That's why I started with
Mm-hmm.
the books that just healing my journey. A lot has happened.
Yeah.
I finally wrote about stuff that I was going through. 2016 before that, into like yeah, before that, like between 2009 and 2016, finally
Yeah.
started to write all that. And so it was definitely a healing experience in terms of like seeing all that, and without sharing the whole story, but at least enough
Yeah.
that like I feel like a sense of healing and accomplishment, and finally like letting people know like this, like going through like mad stuff while trying to help other people with their own healing. Like I got stuff stuff going on with me, so it's like I
That's
definitely
dope.
relate to that. So
That's dope.
um
But I think that's really cool too, because I think like my hope is that our generation as social workers can show others how you can do the work in different creative ways. Like you
mm,
wrote that book, that's so fire. Whether it be podcasting, whether it be, a brand or clothing, or speaking engagements,
yes.
workshops, all these different things. So it's like a new lane. I didn't know we could do any of that when I first got into the field.
Mm. I think that's what grad schools like, they don't like teach us, or at least when I was in grad school, like with speaking engagements, and like
Yeah.
because I got a communications degree. I was doing speaking engagements in undergrad, so like I could do the same thing in grad school, and finally maximizing my undergrad degree and my grad school degree. Like nobody would have told me that. I would have been like jumping on the ball with that a little bit, or at least get out of my comfort zone from the time period of graduating undergrad to graduating grad school.
Hmm.
So um, definitely, like you said, like we're the generation to help, like even the affectionate, as the baby social workers now, like let them know that there's so much you could do with your degree once you get your degree, and not necessarily have to be like licensed. And I did a whole podcast episode about it, ways you can maximize your income without having a license. Like it's not necessary. Like it helps, it opens more doors, yes, but it's not the end all be all like grad schools like to talk about. So
Mhm.
um now let's talk about hip hop therapy for those who don't know what that is, how hip hop can relate in terms of the clinical setting. Give a little bit of what exactly that is.
Yeah, so a lot of people think hip hop therapy is just like this phrase we created, but nah, hip hop therapy is a real research. It's a framework, and so a lot of it's don't think of hip hop therapy as like protocols. It's a framework. It's how we kind of view healing almost. So hip hop therapy was founded by Dr. Edgar Tyson, who's my favorite social worker ever. And Dr. Edgar Tyson was a social worker and started researching this in I want to believe like 95. Then he had his first publication, 97. I think I got those dates right. But he started researching it, and his whole emphasis was really looking at how, even though his research focused on music,
Hmm.
his big push was looking at the therapeutic components within the elements and the culture of hip hop. And so hip hop therapy is basically a sample based approach of clinical evidence based modalities with the elements of hip hop culture,
Hmm.
DJing, MCing, graffiti art, breakdancing, street entrepreneurship, language, knowledge of self. I feel like knowledge of self is a big component of social work and what we do in the therapeutic
Yes.
space. And so it is basically sampling, right? So I think about, for example, we think about EMDR. One of the main premises of EMDR, or the tools we use, is called bilateral stimulation. Bilateral stimulation is moving bilaterally, right, left, while thinking about something painful.
Mm.
So bilateral stimulation wasn't invented by EMDR. That has always existed within our community. That was actually what youth of color, right, Black and brown youth, use to process what they were going through, what they were seeing and experiencing in the South Bronx. So when
Mm.
we really think about hip hop culture, we think about like what they did to heal, and they used
Right.
movement. They turned what was gang violence into now breakdancing battles,
Mm.
right? Or MC battles, or battling in that way. And so they already had that within them. They had that wisdom within their bodies to process. And so looking at that, so how hip hop therapy works is you take, and this is, again, this is something you would only use with clients who resonate with hip hop culture,
Mm.
right? So you would take, for example, if I had a client that was struggling with inner child work, or there was an attachment wound, right? I might pull into the work. I might pull into the work interview Mary J. Blige did with Andrew Martinez recently, where she talks about that, because that makes it less vulnerable to hear it from somebody that's a hip
Mm.
hop legend, and someone that may come from a similar experience as one of our clients, right?
Right.
Paired with that, we might pull that into a EMDR resourcing activity. We might add that bilateral movement through listening to an instrumental and focusing on a certain part of that instrumental. What does that do? That regulates the nervous system. Then the other step we could do too is we could have them write a whole mantra or verse
Mm.
around how they want to feel about themselves, or what they would want to say to their younger selves. And that might be through rhymes, that might be incorporating controlled breathing. We call that breath work, right? And so there are many things that hip hop therapy is a very creative framework you could integrate into your work. But I do think it's important, um, I do think it's important that, I mean, this is one of the things we're working on right now, is figuring out how to give folks adequately like trained in honoring Tyson's work,
Mm.
in being also like getting consultation from folks that are doing it, I don't, we're in the beginning phases of even thinking about how we would do that.
Right.
But I think that like with any type of modality, whether it be CBT, EMDR, DBT, you get trained and then you go into consultations as you apply it to your work. So I just think that it's a little bit like, if you're going to use it, you should know about the origins of hip hop. You should know about
Mm.
like what it came out of and whatnot. And so, but yeah, definitely Dr. Tyson's the GOAT. He's always been the GOAT, and definitely look up to him in many ways. And his work really gave me permission to be myself in the field. When I found out about hip hop therapy, because I came into grad school, I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how to merge hip hop and mental health. That was my mission.
Mm.
So when I found out about Tyson's work, I was like, heck yeah, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. May Dr. Tyson rest in peace.
Yeah.
One of my former professors at Fordham University definitely as real could come, and he gave me the 411 of how the ASWB is all a money grab in terms of the licensing. So to hear that
Yeah.
from a professor
Mm.
while he was while he was still
I
teaching.
I'm definitely jealous of you. I always with JC, because JC was his mentee.
Mm.
I always like love hearing stories about Tyson. Like he made such an impact in our field.
No, he did. Like I know, like I was from like summer semester, and that summer semester flew by, but it was definitely a lot of work, and he definitely like I could have taken like another class, like a full semester with him. I would have been like whatever hair I had in my head, like pulling it out from all the research
Yeah.
stuff, but
Yeah.
I definitely would
No.
have learned a lot and would have like tried to like
Yeah.
better me as a social worker. So definitely shout out to
Yeah.
Dr. Tyson
Yeah.
for
No.
his contribution.
He was definitely a researcher. That's one of the things JC has said before on a couple podcasts. It's like, dang, like all of us are like in the trenches of the clinical
Mm,
work. And he was really a researcher. And
yeah,
so it was a big loss, when he passed, because
yeah,
we got to kind of step into that now.
yeah. I don't even remember how I found it. I know it was something online I saw. I don't remember how I saw it when he passed, and it was definitely a shock because last time I saw him, he looked like a relatively healthy, at least from the outside. So
Yeah.
definitely a big loss in the profession. So, but his
Hmm.
work continues, through you and through a couple other people I follow who are
Hmm.
doing the work. So, that that being said, what else you got going on as we hit for the fourth quarter of 2023, thinking about 2024? What you got going on?
Shoot. Let's see. I am where am I at? I mean, on a one of the things we're prepping for is we're dropping the new merch line in November, and we're also going to be doing a live podcast event.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna be collaborating with Liz Sanchez, and she has her own podcast, but we're gonna do kind of like a tribute to Selena.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, it's gonna be hosted at gonna be hosted in like LA area, at a cafe called Chismosas Cafe, and it's yeah, so it's gonna be an event where we talk about like what Selena represented to our culture,
Mm,
and the therapeutic themes within that, right? Sense of identity, all the things. If you think about the movie Selena, all the
yeah,
things that movie kind of showed us when we were little is very much evolves as we get older. And so we're gonna be talking a little bit about that. And man, I'm just trying to get through the year as a parent. I feel like lately I've been getting jumped. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have I have a ton of podcast episodes I got to edit and go through.
Mm,
I added 2 licensed therapists to the team. So really my focus lately has been really like researching marketing, SEO strategies, stepping outside of my comfort zone in certain ways too. Um, Within that is a part of that process. And Yeah, and the other focus too is just my own healing and
Mm,
staying focused on what brings me that balance um as a person, because if I get off my game with that, it
mm,
impacts how I lead, it impacts how I parent,
mm.
it impacts a lot. And so staying focused on that is just kind of like the plan.
Yeah, and for my social work parents, I definitely like that ask, like, how do you balance, like, you have your practice and you're doing all these things, like how do you balance between motherhood and parenting and with the work that you're doing.
I think I just got a solid like tribe and village around me. It's not easy. I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I have 18-year-old. I got a my nephew also lives with us. He's 11. I got a 10-year-old, and then I got my little one who's 3. And everyone's in
Mm,
practices, and everyone's in. We got soccer, jujitsu. We got all sorts of things we got going on. I think lately what we've kind of found as a family, especially me and my husband, is like really just checking in and noticing like what percentage are you at today, and seeing like, am I doing 80% and you're like, you're at a lower
mm-hmm.
percentage, and how do we kind of, because it's never going to be 50-50.
No.
But if I'm doing 90% Thursday, Friday, homie, I'm gonna need you to like take on that higher percentage Saturday, Sunday, right? So it's really like, but we got a solid team around us. If my husband's working overtime, I could call, and one of the uncles and be like, hey, I need you to take him to jujitsu. Or with my kids too, I think one of the cool things is that I've had to have conversations with them around is like just my own self-care. Like, hey, mom needs like 45 minutes of an uninterrupted time where I could just watch a show, and I need this to be a better mom, or I need this just to chill out, and then we could go wherever, right?
Mm,
um that's been hard though, like, because I didn't really grow up chilling, like it wasn't okay to chill in my house. Like, you always had to be working. And so that's been something I've really had to deconstruct lately, is rest. And I've noticed that when I do prioritize that, it is those times where the creative ideas come
mm,
and the next thing comes, versus like always in session or always doing these, all these different types of meetings and whatnot.
right.
And so yeah, honestly, just to be transparent, I'm still trying to figure it out, but definitely don't do it alone. It'd be impossible to do alone. And a lot of it comes down to just picking and choosing my battles with all of them as well.
Yes, you have to pick and choose
Yeah,
battles.
yeah, you ain't gonna win it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I got my son's 14, just started high school. My daughter's 11, just started middle school, and it's like
Mm,
they're they're older now, so it's like if they're on a computer, as long as they're not looking at crazy things or whatever, I just let them rock and like, all right, you've been on a computer long enough. Like we go read a book, go shower, take out garbage, do something. And it's like, but still, like when they were younger, and I know I had to be like on top of like and finding that balance. And yeah,
mhm.
they took me to 0 to 100 real quick, but like in the end, like
True.
it's paying off now a little bit. I've
Yeah.
seen the results a little bit, and obviously now with everything going on, there's peer pressure and those drug stuff
Mhm.
and fentanyl's going crazy. Here, Delaware is like a big thing about fentanyl going on. I'm
Oh
sure
wow.
everywhere else, but they're really focusing on the fentanyl here in Delaware. And like, I live in the suburbs, so it's like there's not much to do. So like,
Yeah.
you would think when
Yeah.
you mentioned the Bronx where I'm from, it's like, all right, like New York City is always something to do, or
Yeah.
so it's like here feeling like, okay, like there's not much to do if you're not in the sport or you're not doing
Mhm.
something karate, just jiu-jitsu or dancing or something. Like you just home in the house and like you're
Yeah.
bored, you tend to get into trouble. So this type of things, like watch who the friends are, and like, and it's hard to like as a parent, like everything's on the damn iPad, like all the work's on the iPad. There's no such thing as like a notebook. If it is they only keep it at school. They don't bring no notebook home, and so it's like the parenting has been harder thanks to COVID. And now that I
Yeah.
live in the suburb, and it's like either they ride a bus to school or they get car rides, and it's like I have no idea who the parents are. I have no idea who their friends are, and it's like
I know. It's crazy.
back in New York, I was always like, "Oh, you're so and so's dad. You're so and so's dad." Like, okay, like, so people knew me as that. So it's like now it's like, all right, who are these? Who are these kids?
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, it's like, I don't know, like with electronics, it is hard because that's like, I grew up in the 90s. So like we had access to video games and electronics, but it wasn't like I was talking to my husband about this other day. I'm like, yo, I think Sonic the Hedgehog is why we are such a solid generation of like persistence because we didn't have like the ability if you lost and died at a level, you had to start all the way over. Like you couldn't save where you were at. And so I'm like, damn, those levels were low key hard. Like they didn't play easy on us, right? But it's like I think for us, like we had access to electronics, but it wasn't like there was only so much you can
Mm,
get to, so much access, and then it was even hard to get onto the internet, like and so I think for my kids, they're like I'm not anti-electronics, but like I also with them, I was talking about, man, like you gotta go outside, like we gotta go to
mm,
the beach or we gotta go be in nature and kind of disconnect so that they could learn that balance of
mm.
like I mean, because even with myself, like I could scroll, it's literally so addicting.
Yes.
And so it's definitely hard to find that like to find that balance for
Mm.
myself and also to model it for them. Um, but yeah, like I bought a card game the other day. I'm like, we're gonna play cards. You know what I mean? Just because electronics could also take away from like, family time and like
Mm.
quality time of
Mhm.
conversations and all that. So I'm not anti-electronics. I think that there's like it's just something you got to be a
Yeah,
little bit careful with.
yeah. It's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned the card game. I was playing like Uno with my daughter, and then playing Connect Four, and I was taking the
Yeah.
satisfaction of kicking her behind. So you
Hmm.
cheating, and it's like, no, like you gotta pay attention. Like you you had three right in a row. All you gotta do is put the other one in, and you win. Like you gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
Like it's like these problem solving skills, and just paying attention and like focusing, like you focus in school. You gotta focus playing the game too, because then you're gonna
Right.
get. So it's like all these things that will come in handy, like in life. So you gotta play these type of games and follow the rules and directions and stuff like that. So use that for
Yeah.
school, use that for work. So it goes hand in hand.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. It's, your your top five MCs changed in the last 3 years.
Now they're still the same. Still the
Who
same.
who is it again? Remind me.
Number one, best all-time favorite rapper is Big L from Harlem. I don't even know what I said last time. I don't know if it was in order, but it's Big L. Then we got L Bug, got Lauryn Hill. We got Big L, Lauryn Hill, Pac. We got Kendrick. And my last one is always like sometimes I always switch that up. We're doing all time or right now?
Well, your personal all time.
All time. Mm,
I can't even do right now. For me, it's like right now, it's like Drake, and I have nobody, no idea who's
yeah.
out there.
I mean, I would say of all time, just like, skill set, I would probably say Nas. I mean, and I feel like everyone's top five is different based off of
Where you live at, where you from, where you grew up.
but also like what you hear, right? Like for
Mm,
me, like my husband's all about like Like his top five is based off of the artist, but also the music, like the sound of the music.
Mm,
And that has a lot to do with the producers, right? For me,
right.
I'm like a big like I love lyricists.
Mm,
So it doesn't necessarily matter how many albums they sell or like
right.
any of that. And so yeah, I would say those are my top five.
Yeah, my for me it's Tupac, Biggie, Jay-Z.
Hmm.
4 and 5 is always like a toss up because there's so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say Guru from Gangstar doesn't get enough love.
Hmm.
Obviously, got to throw Nas in there, just Illmatic and Alone by himself.
Hmm.
Like he just had, I think he had 2 albums this year alone. So it's like he's
Have you
still,
have you seen him perform too? He's
yeah,
solid still.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Naughty by Nature, both Vinny and Tretch individually don't
Hmm.
get enough love. Uh,
Hmm.
just Tretch with his flow alone doesn't get enough love. And so many, obviously, Busta Rhymes just nobody.
Yeah.
He's just on another planet.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
I
just a
mean,
lot, and of course, got throw Ti in there. Obviously, got the Ice Cube in there. There's
yeah,
just so many, like Dr. Dre. It's just so many.
yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, seems like we both got a lot going into finishing up 2023 strong. I'm all about finishing the year strong. So things
Yeah.
are things are cooking to end the year and coming out 2024 swinging.
Hmm. Yeah, man, let's get it.
That's we don't have a choice. It's like all or nothing. Just because
Yeah.
times we in, so we have to we gotta support our families, support ourselves, and
Hmm.
balancing that self care, but at the same time do what we need to do in terms of making that money and then supporting our families.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
what I don't know if you're I always like throw a political question in there,
Hmm.
and like I know there's been a I've seen like a big push on your governor Newsom for like
Hmm.
2028.
Hmm.
What have you seen in terms of like social work perspective, like kind of see like where he's at? I know California is hella expensive. Like what I know he's trying to do is like a few good things done, a few things, but what
Yeah.
have you seen from a social work perspective that like, all right, should we like really like seriously look at him as a potential nominee for president?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, like I don't really stay up on like Newsom's specific policies, but I will say one of the two things that I think is dope that's been in place due to like the raise of taxes, but I rock with is the Promise Act, which provides college students going to community college the first 2 years of college free,
Mm,
regardless of any SES. I think that's fire. And I also think that they also in California also get a childcare like daycare stipend too now. And so that's based off of income, but the
okay,
income is like, I mean, it covers a lot of families.
well, that's
And
good.
so, yeah, like for me, I'm like, yo, take my taxes, but like, if people go to college for free, access to healthcare, like
Mm,
if it's, I think like that's to me, it's preventative, and
right.
that's the biggest thing I think. Just from a social work perspective, we're
Mm,
thinking about social welfare, and when I say welfare, people automatically think like the reactive types of programs, but not like libraries are a part of social welfare,
mm,
parks are a part of social welfare. So I think from a social work perspective, my whole criticism of policies and laws and whatnot and distributions of funds is it's always been a reactive type of strategy,
yeah.
not just in California, across
Of course,
many
it's a
places.
U.S. thing.
It's a U.S. thing, but I think about like I think that if we're really going to invest in our people, and we really want to see a shift, then we need to start with the preventative types of policies and programs. So I think about, like, one of the things that we definitely have to shift as a nation, and I guarantee we'll see the benefits of it, is if we invested in maternal mental health and physical health and
Yes.
leave. If you think about all these other countries that are giving their people paid time off over a year, what they're doing is they're investing in the attachment, the healthy attachment between a caregiver, a mother, and a child. In the US we get 60 days, 30 days, and like that's wild.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why, kids are angry, or you know what I mean, or there's, not to say that that's our main issue, but if we started with investing in attachment from and I speak of this personally because when I had my son in 2019, I was working at a nonprofit. I was there for several years, and it took the EDD 3 months to pay me. And I'm stressed out, right? Because I got bills to pay,
right?
And then I think about a lot of people in that type of circumstance. You're trying to breastfeed, you're trying to adjust, your body's trying to heal,
right?
And there's very minimal investment in that comes from that comes free, that comes a part of our health, but a lot of that comes down to our healthcare system.
No, I absolutely a lot of what I went through. I don't know. I think about what the outcome would have been, but it would have been a lot better had maternal care. Like I think about we need and I heard that there is an existence, but the hospitals don't like to say anything. Is that we need maternal social workers in the maternity ward? Like, what's your aftercare look like? Like, what? Like, what's your plan of caring for the child? Like, what? Okay, how are you feeling? Physically, depending how if there was any complications for birth. Obviously, there's going to be some you might be on some painkillers or something to deal with the pain, and you might be getting addicted to the pain pills, and nobody's there to follow up. So there's all this stuff that happens after the baby is born, and it's not just the baby's mom too, or the parents still going to be together, or they're together now. What does all that entail? What's the support system like? Is there maternal parents that can help with the child? Is there siblings? Is there what's the the partners, the partner got family that care for the baby? What does that look like? None of that for either one of my kids was discussed. So it's so much would possibly would have changed. So that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, when I lived in Hawaii, this was when I was in grad school. I had my second child in the middle of I started grad school. I started my MSW program in August. I had my daughter in December during break. And but we were also a military family. So the military healthcare system operates like universal healthcare, whether people like to see that or not. And so they had it's definitely not a perfect system, but they had midwife. They had an option for a midwife program if you wanted to do that. And then after, they had nurses and certain social workers come to the house. So after you're discharged, you go home. They come to your house, and they kind of provide some education to the father and the family or the kids around what type of emotions or how my hormones might be kind of changing. So that was very different compared to post grad school, and then coming out into the civilian world. It's very much based off of your insurance plan and based off of they're like, you want to stay extra day? I'm like, no, because I'm not trying to get charged another $1,000. You know what I mean? So a lot of it comes down to that. But that's in regards to certain policies. I think if we invested in our people from the start of utero, we would see a change.
No, absolutely, and all the stuff with abortion and everything that's been happening,
Mm-hmm.
this year, and all this the pro-life,
Mm-hmm.
pro-choice stuff, like that's. I mean, that's always going to be a battle, but you're right. We need assistance from as soon as I find out the woman's pregnant, like what's the game plan,
Yeah.
what's going to be, and like until even after, like what's aftercare, like you do aftercare and foster care. There's like gotta be aftercare for if the baby's born. Like mom, how you doing? Like how's your partner doing? Like what? Like that's because it's a
Mm-hmm.
major adjustment. Like you got one, and like all right, and then you got another one, and it's like all right. Like everybody got to adjust, even like you got big bro, big sister, and like now you got another little one that is like so
Yeah.
it's
And sometimes births are traumatic, right? Like
yes,
the same thing that we see in social work, right? Like so when people ask me like who is your like what type of clients come to us? Typically, they're first timers ever in therapy, or they've been harmed by our mental health care system and they come to us to kind of see if it's different, right? So, same thing with our, within our healthcare system. Many of us have been harmed, many of us have not. There's a lack of trust, there's a lack of like, can I speak up for what I need? And so, especially if you're a person of color,
color,
you
yes.
know, I remember when I had my son, we were a black and brown family and they weren't listening to us until my husband began to question why they wanted me to go in and have a C-section, all these different things,
Yeah,
right? Like not to um everyone's journey is different,
right.
but we had a birth plan and we were pretty much sticking to that.
Mm,
But they thought, they definitely thought that they could, it's like a hierarchy. So if
yeah.
they,
Mm,
because you're a doctor or whatnot, I'm not supposed to question you. And that's the same thing we see in social work that we really, I feel like, again, our generation is working to deconstruct is, yeah, I got these degrees and titles, but like, we work collaboratively, what you need. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like really honoring um, that person versus honoring the fact that, I got this leverage over you type of
right.
thing and I know better.
Yeah, that was so real with what you just said. Like, especially if you got a birth plan, like now there's stuff
Mm-hmm.
happening like with your body that things change, yeah, diabetes starts forming or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously, things the plan might have to
Yeah.
change or
Yeah.
but if you got a plan, like, and you're the expert because this is your body, like,
Mm-hmm.
let the doctor know what you want, and it's something you and your partner are agree to together, then like that it should be honoring those wishes until you can't, like if you can't like medically you can't anymore, then
Yeah.
that's how it should be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So where can people find you?
Yeah, so people can find me I'm always on social media. So you can find me at B Williams LCSW across all platforms. And check out the podcast called the Wholehearted West Coast Living Podcast. That's streaming on Spotify, Apple, and all the other platforms as well. And yeah, if anyone interested in services or working with us, you could find more information there, or you could also check us out on our website, which is healmatic.health.
Awesome. Hey, you mentioned Selena earlier. I saw this meme since we're in the
Yeah.
Hispanic Heritage Month. I don't know if you saw this, but it
Hmm.
was like Happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everybody except Yolanda.
Yeah. 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 People, I feel like people don't really understand how hard we go for Selena. Like,
Yeah, I knew somebody in the Bronx every year, like her birthday at the anniversary of her passing, will be blasting Selena all day long. It's like every year without fail. So I was like, okay, but
yeah,
no, it's
that's
definitely
funny.
died too soon or
Hmm.
some nonsense. And I can only imagine like the superstars she would have been. Like she was just touching like that superstar status, that
Yeah.
crossover, and
Yeah, she inspired Beyonce, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't know that.
Mm.
And I mean, because she's from Texas too.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think, you know, Selena to me, just as a Mexican American, like I didn't grow up speaking Spanish or anything like that. So you better believe I know a lot of her songs in Spanish though. So her music got many of us reconnected with our roots. And
Yeah.
like there's a sense of pride too that we have, that she gave us, from the style to body type
Hmm.
to the way she did her makeup, the way that she, you know, was with her community. So yeah, she's definitely special.
Absolutely. I mean, she continue to rest in peace. On that,
Hmm.
on that note, Brittany, you know, I'm always an ally, whatever you need. Message, email away.
Hey, same. I'm super happy to see all that you're doing, and it's just really, really dope. Like as iron sharpens iron, we continue to build and grow together. And I really, I always love checking in and tapping in with you.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Right.